Do you at any point compare India with other developed or developing countries? Do you in your own mind, do you pace India?
Certainly, we always look at China and we keep saying how way behind we are We are very behind from China, so we have to catch up. And we always compare the method, the governance is different, the government is different. And in a democracy, as you know, there's always consensus building, and it takes time, and we have a coalition government which makes it even more complex. So agriculture growth in agriculture is another big concern we have, because people are getting more affluent, there is more disposable income. Government's programs are working where they give money to the poor, to rural landless labor. So all that money goes in food consumption. So consumption of food is increasing in India, but food production has not kept pace with consumption. As a result, we have shortages. As a result, inflation is there. So it's a...
Yeah. And where do you personally spend your mind and your time and your focus on making a difference today?
Well, I'm involved in the financial sector particularly, but also in the housing sector, how to build more houses, where to build houses, and also in the infrastructure sector, because Infrastructure Development Finance Corporation, IDFC, where I'm the non-executive chairman.
And in the banking sector, in the financial services sector, where you're also seen as a doyen of the industry, the regulator appears to be taking very proactive steps. Firstly, to increase its own, or rather the country's own ownership of public sector banks, and requiring foreign players to put more capital into their Indian business, or rather to be capitalized in India and so on. Where do you think the regulators are taking the financial services sector, and what would you like to see happening?
No, I think the regulators have been very cautious, very conservative. The subprime crisis really bypassed India. It did not impact India. I would say it just barely touched Indian financial sector. We did not have any large bad debts or any write-offs or anything in the Indian banking sector. So the regulators, being cautious, conservative, have really protected the Indian banking sector. And I think they are moving with the times. They see a bubble being created and they immediately come in and they increase some ratios and capital adequacy. And 2 years ago they saw a boom in real estate, so they increased capital adequacy for risk weightages for mortgages and extra provisioning for mortgages. So they are absolutely on the ball, and they try to protect the institutions. So regulatory mechanism in India is pretty strong, and whether you look at the capital market regulator, or you look at the insurance regulator, or you look at the RBI, of course, the banking regulator, the pension regulator. We have a regulator, the National Housing Bank, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Reserve Bank of India, and they are also very active in discussion. What should we do to protect housing finance?
The final point, as India progresses and with so much opportunities on the table, governance issues become strained somewhat. In fact, the public sector banks have a number of issues in terms of non-performing loans and how they deal with that and so on. And on the one hand, you have this reputation of have built a amazing, well-governed institution and so on. And in fact, it's even more amazing when you think that in the housing sector, the temptation to be close to the housing developers would have been very high, and your name is not associated with any of that. What are your biggest concerns in terms of governance and corporate social responsibility in that sense?
I think governance in India is a concern. You have seen recently there's been a spate of scandals, scams that have been discovered. And again, the media in India is the watchdog for industry. The media in India, both the print and the electronic media, really the watchdogs, not only for industry but also for politicians, also for bureaucrats. And so one has to be very careful. Once they find a lead, they go at it with hammer and tong until they bring it to some conclusion. So governance is an issue, but you must understand that India has grown very rapidly, and in this very rapid growth during the last 10 years, decade, maybe the regulatory mechanism, maybe the public sector tightening, maybe the right level of people are not there in different bodies as a result. And again, governance issues are predominantly in land. So what I'm trying to say is land is a problem for housing, land delays all infrastructure problem, and land is the biggest reason for scandals and corruption and governance. So it is land which creates all that. And we have archaic land laws. We have to change our land laws. Converting land from agricultural to non-agricultural, it involves a large amount of effort and a lot of issues involved in that.
Can I then say that encapsulates your own passion and the areas that you will be involved in going forward?
Well, I'd like to be involved. If we can improve the system, I'd like to be involved, whether it is infrastructure or land or real estate or banking, whatever.
And you will be chairman for a while more?
I should think so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deepak.
Thank you. Thank you.